Revealed, 5 life-changing secrets you owe yourself in 2025 for unexpected, amazing transformation. Mark woke up before dawn, the sound of the alarm slicing through the stillness like a rusted blade. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes and dragged himself into the daily grind, his heart heavy with the weight of 2 children's futures. A factory worker in the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, he faced the relentless roar of machinery that felt like a suffocating cloud pressing down on him. He had always taken pride in providing for his family, yet each tick of the clock felt like a tick toward an uncertain fate. The small grocery store down the street didn't help, barely stocking the essentials, where every item weighed heavily on his meager paycheck. Mark thought of his kids, their smiling faces and bright dreams, and felt the creeping dread of the layoffs hanging over the factory like a dark thunderhead. It made the air thick, stifling his very thoughts. Am I enough? He questioned quietly, squeezing his eyes shut. On weekends, the tight-knit community held on to what they could, sharing laughter over diner coffee. But even the upbeat chatter about the annual summer fair couldn't drown out the whispers of fear. He remembered his grandfather's worn sayings about hard work and determination, words that used to inspire him to plow through tough days. Now, standing in line at the local employment office, he watched the despair on the faces of his neighbors and felt the corners of his heart twist. Then he had a flash of hope. During one of those rare moments when life felt a bit lighter, Mark ran into Jason, an old school friend who'd become a corporate success. In their conversation, Jason dangled an enticing job offer in front of him like a carrot on a string. "It's a fresh start, buddy," he urged, his eyes bright with the promise of financial security and city life. Mark felt a pull, the prospect stirring something deep within him. He could break free from the weight of it all, or at least so he thought. But as the days stretched on, tension crackled in his marriage too. He could see it in Sarah's eyes, the way they flickered with concern whenever he mentioned Jason's offer. "Mark, what if chasing this dream leaves us behind?" she asked one night, their voices raised as pressure swirled around them like a storm. He could feel his resolve crumbling, the very foundation of their life beginning to shake. That evening, while going through old boxes, Mark stumbled across 5 slips of paper, each detailing a piece of wisdom that felt like a lifeline. Secrets about ambition, fulfillment, and the power of staying rooted in love washed over him like a cool breeze. They challenged everything he thought he understood about hard work, self-worth, and community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The whispers of possibility danced on the edge of his mind as he prepared for the town hall meeting that could change everything. He understood that making a choice could redefine his life, yet the thought of leaving home, of risking his family's security for something uncertain, clawed at him. Standing at the cusp of his destiny, with hope lingering just out of reach and fear knotting his stomach, Mark shivered at the crossroads he found himself in. Would he take the job in the city, risking everything he'd ever known, or would he remain true to Maplewood, the place that shaped him and his dreams? The clock was ticking, leaving him teetering, filled with a question that echoed louder than any factory noise: what future awaited him as he grappled with the hardest choice of all? As the town hall doors swung open that evening, the familiar chatter of neighbors filled the space. Mark stepped inside, his heart racing like the rhythm of a drummer fueling a parade. The meeting room was a patchwork of faces, some worn by worry, others creased with laughter. The mix was suffocating and exhilarating, much like the choice he faced. "Come on, Mark. They've got the coffee brewing," a voice called out from the group. It was Tom, the mayor, always quick with a smile and a cup in hand. Mark forced a smile back, but it felt strained. He made his way to the front, where a podium stood waiting like a stage set for a performance he wasn't quite ready to give. Voices ebbed and flowed around him, drowning out the questions that loomed in his mind. Would he follow Jason into the unknown and risk life as he knew it? Or would he stay in the comforting shadow of Maplewood even as the clouds of uncertainty threatened to rain on his family's dreams? When the warmth of community began to wrap him in a familiar embrace, he heard his name called out from the back. It was Sarah. Her face, a canvas of worry, met his eyes. In that moment, the laughter and chatter faded, and the world narrowed to just them. "Mark, are you coming?" she asked softly, concern etched in every line of her face. The room swirled around them, but she remained a solid point in his orbit. Taking a breath, he stepped away from the podium, searching for the right words that could articulate his inner turmoil. He had dreamed of this night, hoping he could either inspire change or find peace in his decision. But all he felt was the weight of that damn question hanging in the air between them. What if he was making a mistake? As he approached her, he felt every gaze on him, curious and expectant. Mark could hear the low murmurs. They echoed like a distant drumbeat, reminding him he was not alone in this decision. "Are we really ready to consider this change?" he whispered to her, the urgency in his voice cutting through the noise. "Together, we can handle anything," she reassured, though her tone held an undercurrent of insecurity. "But I need to know you're all in." Mark swallowed hard. Moments passed in silence, rivaling the cacophony around them. Everyone waited, their enthusiasm simmering as they sensed the storm brewing within him. He closed his eyes, envisioning the life he wanted for his kids, the laughter around the coffee table, the safety of familiar streets, but he also saw the light in Jason's eyes, the promise of bigger dreams that felt just out of reach. As he opened his eyes, determination ignited within him. "If there's a chance to build something more, if there's a chance for our dreams to touch the stars," he began slowly, heart pounding, "then maybe it's worth the leap." A collective gasp emerged from the crowd, and in that moment, Mark saw both fear and hope reflected in their eyes. They knew this wasn't just about him. It was about their entire community standing at the precipice of change together. Just as he thought he'd found his footing, Mark saw Sarah's expression shift, a challenge caught between support and doubt. "What if you regret it?" she murmured, and in that split second, he felt the ground beneath them crack. Suddenly he was filled with urgency. He had to make his choice now. "I need to know. I need you to believe I can make this work. Can you trust me?" Her look softened slightly, but uncertainty lingered, as if she were bracing for upheaval. The seconds dragged as he awaited her response, each tick echoing with implications he could scarcely comprehend. This was not just a job offer, this was the potential of everything they had built and everything they could lose. The room felt heavy with anticipation, and he could feel the collective breath of the community, waiting for the decision that could change everything. Would he leap into the unknown, risking it all for a shot at something better? Just then, the doors burst open, and a newcomer rushed in, their expression frantic. "You've got to hear this." Mark's heart dropped as he wondered if the news would lift him up or send him crashing down. Mark's heart raced. The spirited chatter around him faded into a vague buzz, almost as if he were underwater. He didn't want distractions now. He wanted certainty, a clear vision of his next step, a determination that now felt whimsically close. The newcomer's urgency cut through the room like a knife. "Hold on. What is going on?" Tom stepped forward, instinctively taking charge, his mayoral instincts kicking in. The crowd turned anxious, each face reflecting a mix of hope and unease that mirrored Mark's own turmoil. The newcomer was a wary-looking young man, panting slightly as he caught his breath. "There's been a development. I just came from the meeting at the school. They're considering a complete overhaul of the curriculum." He leaned on the podium, his excitement palpable. "And they want community input. They want people to help shape this." Gasps rippled through the audience like a wave. Mark felt Sarah's hand squeeze his arm, grounding him amidst the tide of mixed emotions. He could almost see the gears turning in everyone's minds, the potential swelling in the air. "An overhaul?" Tom echoed, animated by the sudden surge of possibility. "What are they planning?" The young man continued, "They want a program that emphasizes real-world skills, entrepreneurship, environmental science things that will actually prepare our kids for the future instead of just filling in bubbles on tests. They need us to help make this happen. A wave of exhilaration washed over Mark, yet he could sense the uncertainty creeping back into the room. This wasn't just news, this was a call to action. Their dreams were tantalizingly close, yet even more intimidating now. "If this works, if we get in on the ground floor," someone shouted, but Mark couldn't focus on the murmurs around him. He was lost in the whirlwind of possibility. Everything he had thought moments ago felt like clouds dissolving in sunlight. "Mark," Sarah's voice broke his reverie. "What are you thinking?" The gravity of the moment shifted, and he found himself searching her gaze. "This could be it, Sarah. They could take what we hoped to build or it could all fall apart." Her tone was steady, but the flicker of fear in her eyes told him everything he needed to know. "You need to decide, Mark. Fast." Suddenly, the enormity of the situation dawned on him. This was no longer just about him. This was about the future he envisioned for his children, his community. A future where he could stand proudly, not just as a father but as a leader. But then came the weight of doubt, the fear that maybe he'd break something precious by launching into the unknown, that he fought against the rising tide of need and uncertainty, wrestling with it in silence before deciding to speak. "If we could help craft a future where our kids thrive, where they believe they can chase their dreams, then wouldn't that be worth everything?" As he spoke, the murmurs of agreement swelled from the crowd. Hope flickered in their eyes, igniting a fire within him. This was no longer just his choice, it was theirs, a collaborative leap into the future. "Mark?" Sarah prodded gently, as if sensing that a decision had changed shapes in his heart. "What do you want to do?" Taking a deep breath, he looked around the room, seeing the faces of friends and neighbors who had been there during the ups and downs of life. This was family. "I want to be part of this. I want our voices to matter." Cheers erupted, a burst of joyous energy that filled the room, and for the first time, Mark felt clarity cut through the fog. Just as the thrill of their collective decision settled in, someone from the back shouted, "Let us get organized. We need to meet." Mark nodded, the excitement now palpable. They could transform this community, and they would. But as they began planning their next steps, a growing unease gripped his heart. Would they rally together in time? Would they have the courage to face the obstacles looming ahead? Just then, someone raised a hand. "But what if the school board rejects us? What if we do all this work for nothing?" The air hung thick with a new tension as Mark's heart sank again. Those were questions he didn't have the answers to yet. He looked at Sarah, and the uncertainty rippled through him. What if it isn't enough? With every eye now turned towards him, he felt the burden of leadership begin anew, and he realized he may have just taken on an even bigger leap than he anticipated. What if all they dreamed of and worked for came crashing down? Mark found himself standing at a precipice yet again, staring into the unknown. Was there a way through this storm, or would they just be left with echoes of what could have been? The clamor of voices surged like an ocean tide, sweeping away some of the anxiety that had gripped Mark's heart moments before. His neighbors rallied, sharing a mix of excitement and apprehension. But before he could absorb it all, another voice rose above the rest, strong and clear. "Hey, what if we turned this into a community task force?" It was Anna, a teacher at the local elementary school, her words slicing through uncertainty with unparalleled focus. "We could meet weekly, gather input, and really put together our vision. We need to show the school board we're serious." Mark's pulse quickened. That simple idea ignited hope. Together, they could brainstorm ideas, draft proposals, and research best practices to present to the board. The thought alone filled the room with renewed energy. "Let us do it!" Someone shouted, and the collective roar that followed was infectious. Mark felt a rush of adrenaline as he glanced around at the determined faces, all shining with the same flicker of courage. "I'll handle the logistics," Tom pledged, his mayoral presence now fully engaged. "Let us get a schedule printed and organize our first meeting. We can't waste any time." Mark nodded, heart pounding with renewed anticipation. He felt Sarah's hand squeeze his again, warmth flooding through him. It was as if she could see the embers of purpose glowing brighter within him. "But we need to consider our approach," Anna interjected. "We have to align with our community values and understand what every parent wants for their kids." Her face was fierce, full of conviction. Mark could see everyone nodding, their expressions reflecting a unity that felt electric. Suddenly, a subtle shift took place within him. This was more than just a group of concerned citizens, it was a transformation. A myriad of voices, perspectives, dreams, each one vital to crafting a vision. This wave of realization warmed his chest. He was no longer standing alone, tension ebbed, replaced by the curved joy of collective creation. But as excitement bloomed, a sense of urgency wrapped around Mark's heart once more. What about dissenting voices? What about parents whose desires clashed with their vision? How would they maintain this momentum amidst potential conflicts? "Wait," he said suddenly. "We have to be ready for pushback. Not everyone will agree, and that's okay. We need to anticipate that." The room fell silent for a moment, absorbing his words like a sponge. Then someone spoke up, "True, we can't be afraid of differing opinions. We should invite everyone to contribute, and that means openness." Mark felt relief rush over him. Their innate understanding of community was shining through adversity. Yet in the back of his mind, lingering doubts festered. Would they be able to bring dissenters into the fold? Could they unite for this common cause without fracturing on matters of opinion? Mark took a deep breath, stealing a glance at Sarah, who offered him a reassuring nod. She was right beside him on this journey. "All right. Let us keep our hearts open and invite transparent discussion. The more perspectives, the richer our outcome." Cheers erupted again, this time with determination threading through the cheers. They could do this together, he thought. They were standing on the edge of something monumental. As conversations spilled over each other, Mark felt a weight lift but knew it was just the beginning. They needed a plan, a strategy to move forward, but more importantly, they would need resilience, and amidst the lifting spirits, a whisper of doubt wormed its way back in, warning him that fractures could also bring growth. As discussions buzzed with vibrant energy, a feeling nagged at him: what if they opened the door only to find it slammed back in their faces? Could the enthusiasm of this moment withstand the harsh winds of reality? With his heart pounding against his ribs, Mark realized he was balancing precariously on this new journey. They were crafting a vision, but what if it all unraveled with their first obstacle? The question hung in the air like a fragile promise, leaving him to wonder just how far they might fall and what it would take to rise again. The evening air hummed with a mix of excitement and tension, a palpable energy that Mark could feel tingling in his fingertips. He exchanged glances with the people around him, each face a mix of hope and determination. It was a new beginning, but that whisper of doubt still danced at the edges of his mind. "Let us break into smaller groups," Anna suggested, her voice quickening with enthusiasm. "We can brainstorm specific areas we need to focus on, like communication strategies, research committees, and outreach." Mark felt the adrenaline surge again. Being part of something so important ignited a fire in him. He watched as the groups formed, a beautiful tapestry of thoughts and voices weaving together. Tom stepped forward, encouraging everyone to jot down their ideas on a whiteboard. Mark moved toward Sarah, a smile spreading across his face. "Can you believe this?" he said, leaning in closer, his eyes shining. "Look at everyone coming together. It feels special." "It really does," she replied, her voice soft yet firm. "But we can't forget the challenges ahead. Every great thing usually comes with some obstacles." "Right." The weight of her words slid back over him like a heavy blanket. He took a deep breath and glanced back at the huddle of neighbors. "I just hope we can keep everyone engaged. What if some people fall away?" Sarah squeezed his hand once more. "Remember, it's about connection. If people feel heard and understand they have a place, they'll want to stick around. Encouraged by her words, Mark moved closer to one of the groups. He listened as they discussed potential issues and how best to communicate with the school board. The blend of different perspectives filled the room with a comforting chaos. One neighbor expressed concerns about funding, another raised questions about curriculum changes, and yet another urged for more hands-on activities for the kids. Just then, a buzz rippled through the crowd. The door creaked open, and in walked a figure Mark hadn't seen in years: Rita, the outspoken parent known for her challenging yet passionate defense of educational issues. The energy shifted instantly. Excitement mingled with apprehension. "Surprised to see you here," Mark called out, his heart racing. "We're forming a task force." "I heard about the meeting," she replied, her voice steady, eyes scanning the room. "And I'm all for it. But just know it won't be easy." A murmur of agreement fluttered through the gathering. Mark's stomach twisted. He could sense the tentative balance in the room. Rita was right. The real work was just beginning. "What do you think we should focus on?" one of the others asked, breaking the slight tension. "Unity," Rita said pointedly. "You'll have different goals and visions for your kids. We need an open mind and a thick skin. It won't happen overnight." Mark nodded, focusing intently on her words. He understood what she meant. This process could open up old wounds, stir feelings of fear, or even provoke anger. But at the same time, it was hope that danced in the air, a flicker of light amid uncertainty. With renewed energy, they returned to discussions. Each idea shared was a thread weaving them closer together. Yet, his worries lingered, creeping like shadows. What if their unity was just an ideal? What if dissenters saw only opposition where he saw collaboration? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in radiant hues, the meeting drew to a close. They all shared a quiet optimism, but Mark couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was precarious. "What happened to the other meetings we discussed?" someone asked as they gathered their belongings, the excitement dwindling as reality settled in. Mark swallowed hard, glancing at the group. This was just one evening, one step. They needed to remain vigilant. As people filtered out, Mark pulled Sarah aside, a weight he couldn't quite place pressing down on him. "Are we doing the right thing here? What if we can't maintain this momentum or face too much conflict?" Her gaze was unwavering. "Then we face it together, Mark. That's what this is about. Building something that matters, regardless of the obstacles." Just then, a thought hit him hard. What if their first major challenge emerged before they even presented to the school board? Would they be strong enough to stand together? Or would the burden of conflict break them apart? As he wrestled with the looming uncertainties, his heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead. The challenge had just begun. The next few days blurred together, each one packed with discussions and emails that piled up like untamed weeds. Mark found himself lost in a loop of fervent hopes and gnawing doubts. They had set the stage. Now the real play was about to unfold. As the weekend approached, he and Sarah sat at their kitchen table, papers scattered around them. A half-eaten plate of cookies sat in the middle, forgotten. The script of their shared vision was in front of them, but they needed to fine-tune it. "Do you think we've hit all the key points?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I mean, what if someone raises a question we didn't prepare for?" Mark leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "We can't predict everything. But if we stick to our core message, unity and progress, that might just hold us together." "True," she said, her voice gaining momentum. "But unity sounds great on paper. In reality, we will have competing voices. We have to think about that. What if someone pushes hard against us?" Mark's heart pounded in response to her worries. The visions of conflict loomed large. He recalled Rita's words, the need for thick skins. "All we can do is stay true to our intentions, right? Listen actively, respond thoughtfully." She smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "And what if we build a safe space for everyone to talk? Maybe that will help us all feel more connected. Courageous and nervous, he nodded. That's brilliant, Sarah. We need to invite dialogue, create an understanding atmosphere, but still, I can't help but feel a storm is brewing. As the clock ticked on, Mark watched her jotted notes transform into a more structured outline. He marveled at her passion. But another haunting thought wormed its way into his consciousness. What if their unity fractured under pressure? What if all their good intentions derailed? Then came a ring from his phone that cut through his spiraling thoughts. Hello. Mark, it's Alex. His voice crackled with urgency. We need to meet. Something has come up. Is everything all right? Alex hesitated. We need to talk about Rita and the school board. Concern washed over Mark. What about her? I think she might have other agendas behind pushing for changes. We should be cautious. Mark's stomach dropped. The realization crashed over him like an unexpected wave. Was Rita really on their side? Or was she merely playing to stir the pot? Can you meet closer to the school tomorrow? Alex continued. I'll fill you in. I think it's crucial. All right, Mark replied, swallowing the dread creeping into his chest. I'll be there. As he hung up, Sarah tilted her head, her eyes probing. What did he say? Mark took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. He wants to talk about Rita. Something's not right, Sarah. Mark, this doesn't sound good. Are you worried? I don't know. I want to believe we can do this. But what if it's even more complicated than we think? Her voice steadied him. We have to trust the process, and trust ourselves. Each challenge only makes us stronger. But the uncertainty lingered like a dense fog. Would they be ready to confront Rita's hidden motives? Would this task force survive the first test before it even really began? That night, as he tossed in bed, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the storm might hit sooner than they anticipated. He stared at the ceiling, fearing what awaited them. The thought of disarray and division gnawed at him. Tomorrow was decision day. Would they solidify their unity, or would it crack under pressure? How deep did the deception run? Heart pounding, he arose. The challenge had only just begun. The storm was coming, and he feared this could shape not just the future of their initiative but everything he held dear. As dawn broke, the sun crept through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the kitchen. Mark poured himself a cup of coffee, attempting to steady his nerves. Every sip felt like it had to fortify him for the day ahead. The anxiety bubbled beneath his skin, and he could barely taste the rich brew. Sarah joined him, her sleepy eyes brightening as the soft light filled the room. How are you holding up? She asked. Her voice was a soothing balm amid his rising tension. Not sure yet, he admitted, finishing his drink in one gulp. I guess I'm just focused on what Alex might reveal. After a quick breakfast, they headed towards the school. Mark's mind raced with possibilities, each more alarming than the last. What schemes could Rita be plotting? Would they expose her? Or would the whole idea of their initiative crumble before it had a chance to take flight? As they walked into the school, the familiar hum of voices and bustling footsteps surrounded them. Teachers moved through the halls, students laughed and rushed to their classes, while the distant echo of chatter filled the air. Mark felt a mix of excitement and dread. This was the landscape where they hoped to build unity and connection. Was it possible that they were about to step on a landmine? They found a quiet corner near the gym, where Alex was already waiting. His expression was grave, shadowed by the overhead lights. Mark's heart sank further as he saw the urgency stamped across his friend's face. Hey, Mark said, trying to gauge Alex's mood. What is going on? Alex leaned closer, lowering his voice. I've spoken with a few parents. It seems Rita is circulating a different narrative than what we discussed. She's pushing for changes that could jeopardize our initiative. She's framing it all as if it's for the students, but I suspect her motivations are deeper. Deeper? Mark echoed, confusion mixing with alarm. What do you mean? I've got whispers about her connections with some influential board members, people who may not have our best interests at heart, Alex explained, his words heavy with concern. If we don't take this seriously, we risk losing everything we've worked for and may end up as pawns in her game. Mark's stomach twisted. Each revelation felt like more weight added to an already heavy burden. What do we do? First, we need to gather evidence. Talk to more parents, teachers, anyone who might have information. We need to know her real intentions before we confront her, Alex advised. Do you think that will help? Sarah's voice was laced with doubt. It might, Alex replied. Before we face her, we need to be armed with facts, not just speculation. Mark felt a spark of resilience ignite in him. We'll need to act fast. There's no time to lose. As they discussed tactics, the reality of their situation seeped in. They didn't just have to defend their vision for change. They had to protect their community from falling into disarray, and that weight felt almost unbearable. After the meeting, Mark glanced at Sarah, who was trying to mask her concern with a brave smile. Yet, he could see the worry in her eyes. We've got this. We just need to trust each other, he reassured her, though doubt still gnawed at him. Mark's thoughts flickered back to the cookies they'd left uneaten at home. Cookies had always symbolized comfort and home. Could they find that sense of safety and unity in the chaos brewing around them now? As they parted ways to gather the information they needed, Mark's resolve sharpened. He would not let fear dictate their path. Today, they would become warriors for their cause, ready to stand firm against whatever threats arose. But just then, a loud echo filled the hallways, a voice booming from the school's PA system. Attention, faculty and parents, we have an urgent announcement regarding the upcoming school board meeting. The tension in Mark's chest tightened. What could this announcement mean for them? And could it amplify the storm that was already raging? With bated breath, he prepared for whatever revelation lay ahead. The PA system crackled again, and the principal's voice took on an ominous tone. Due to recent developments within our school community, we will be holding an emergency meeting this afternoon to address concerns regarding upcoming changes to the board's agenda. Mark's heartbeat quickened. Emergency meeting? This wasn't just a routine update. The words drummed in his ears, echoing his fears. Mark? Sarah's voice pulled him back. We need to get to the library. Fast. Without hesitation, they maneuvered through the throng of students. Fear bubbled just beneath his surface. There was a sense that everyone felt it. The air tinged with uncertainty. Whispers filled the hallways, each one layered with suspicion. Once inside the library, away from prying eyes and ears, Alex joined them, breathless and wide-eyed. Did you hear? He asked. This could be our only chance to get ahead of whatever Rita is planning. We need to gather everyone who's willing to stand with us, Mark affirmed, his determination hardening. There's no room for doubt now. We'll show them we are united. They set to work, drafting a message to rally support. Thoughts poured out in the form of text messages and emails, spreading like wildfire to parents and allies of the initiative. Every buzz of a phone lifted their spirits and increased their urgency. As they worked, Mark's thoughts spiraled. He remembered the cookies again, homemade goodness shared during family nights. His mind propelled him backward to simpler times, where school was about laughter and innocence. Okay, everyone's on board for the meeting, Sarah said, her voice tinged with excitement mixed with nerves. But, are we really ready to confront Rita? Mark breathed deeply. We might not be able to confront her directly at the meeting, but we can arm ourselves with facts and testimonials, find support. He paused, searching for the right words. We want them to see how her actions could damage our community. Alex nodded, a fierce light igniting in his eyes. Right. We can collect stories. The parents love going down memory lane, sharing what school meant to them. How losing our initiative is a loss for everyone. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, Mark felt the pressure build. The weight of their cause pressed down on him. Would the board members recognize the danger of Rita's influence, or would their hopes for change vanish into thin air? They stepped into the echoing hallway again, the air thick with anticipation. The meeting room door loomed ahead, and a knot twisted in Mark's stomach. The school board was gathering. And with it, the futures of their plans. Before entering, he glanced at Sarah and Alex. No matter what happens in there, we fight together, okay? Always, Sarah whispered, determination sparkling in her eyes, but before they could push the door open, another set of footsteps approached. Rita, flanked by two board members, strutted down the hallway with an air of confidence that made Mark's blood boil. Just as she reached them, a smirk played on her lips. "Ah, the hopefuls," she said with a tone dripping condescension. "You really think you can challenge the board without knowing the entire story?" An icy chill crept into Mark's heart. The storm they feared was right in front of them. Time to see who really holds the power in this school, he thought, suppressing the wave of anxiety. As the door creaked open and they stepped into the meeting room, Mark's resolve hardened. Whatever came next, they would hold their ground. The fight was just beginning. And with that, the weight of their choices bore down heavier than ever. What uncharted territories were ahead? Would they find the truth or would they be lost in a web of deception? The room was charged with tension as varying shades of concern and expectation flickered across the faces of the board members. The shiny wooden table gleamed under the sterile overhead lights, and Mark felt its reflective surface might just show the pressure building inside him. Murmurs echoed, mixing with the rustling of papers and the sound of shifting chairs that he stood with Sarah and Alex a little to the back, arms crossed, grounding himself. They hadn't stepped into this arena to cower. The weight of their mission felt heavier than ever, like a weighty anchor pulling at their resolve. "Let us listen," Mark whispered, trying to breathe through the tightening knot in his chest. He turned to see Sarah's anxious face, but even in her nerves, he could see the flicker of courage behind her eyes. Alex was focused, his gaze locking in on Rita as she strutted to the front. Rita cleared her throat, a false cheeriness masking her deeper intentions. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We're at a crucial juncture, and I have some exciting news," she began, her voice smooth like butter, but Mark could hear the sharp edge hidden beneath. "You might find my proposals align very well with an enhanced curriculum that prepares our students for a future beyond these walls." An audible gasp floated through the room, a different kind of murmur that didn't escape Mark's notice. Enthusiasm had a way of turning into outrage, a prelude to rebellion. "What are you planning, Rita?" Someone called out from the front row, a mother whose face Mark recognized from school events. "Rest assured, this reflects a forward-thinking approach," Rita dismissed easily, a practiced smile still stretched across her lips. "Your children will benefit from the innovations, and we must evolve with the current trends." Mark felt the pit in his stomach deepen. It wasn't just about technology or innovation, it was about something much deeper: tradition, community, heart. How could she talk about evolution when it threatened to sever the interconnectedness they had fought so hard to maintain? Suddenly, it was as if an electric pulse shot through him. He could either sit back or rise to the occasion, challenge her words head-on. "What innovations do you plan that would jeopardize our existing programs?" He heard his own voice, stronger than he felt. Heads turned, whispers hushed, and the eyes of the room landed back on him, Rita's smile tainted with irritation. "Now, Mark, we know that you're very passionate about the community initiative, but we must look at the bigger picture. Adjustments are necessary for growth at what cost?" Mark interrupted, pushing through the weight of the room. "You've only mentioned benefits. What about the students who thrive on the programs we've built? The memories, the roots?" A few nods of agreement stirred in the audience, encouragement against the tide. "We're not just students," Sarah added, stepping forward. "We're part of a collective story here. Taking away our initiative isn't progress, it's erasing who we are." Rita's eyes narrowed, but Mark could see a crack forming in her confidence, the cool veneer slipping slightly. "See? Alex leaned into Mark, excitement crackling in the air. This is how we show them. We need to keep digging, keep reminding them of what matters. A woman behind them spoke up, her voice tremulous but strong. I don't want my children to grow in a place that doesn't value community. We need both. A ripple of agreement spread across the room, a murmured chorus of affirmation lighting a fire in Mark's heart. Mark felt the tide shifting. This was more than a conversation, it was a movement. But with positivity came vulnerability. What if the board still dismissed their voices? No matter how this ends, we're already changing the conversation, Mark thought, glancing over his shoulder at Sarah and Alex, their expressions mingling determination with fear. As the discussion deepened, the room grew warmer, more passionate. Mark could see the board members stiffening, their authority challenged in a way they hadn't expected. This wasn't just another meeting, this was a reckoning. Now, let us see how far we can push this, was the thought that played in Mark's mind. As the waves of color and emotion washed over him, he knew one thing: whatever happened next, he wasn't backing down. But what would happen when they dug deeper? What truths were waiting to be uncovered, lurking behind layers of deceit? The moment before a storm often stirs the air sweet with anticipation, but what would the aftermath unveil? The meeting morphed into a dynamic clash of ideals, a whirlpool of voices that marked a turning point in their community's narrative. As Rita stumbled over her polished words, Mark saw the opportunity open before them, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a long night. The uncertainty that had weighed him down was beginning to lift. Every statement he made was met with murmurs of agreement, and slowly the barriers began to dissolve. We want our children to thrive, not just survive, he stated, drawing from the well of conviction that had come to define him in these turbulent weeks. It was no longer just about him, or about the town's initiative, it was about their collective responsibility to the future. Rita's veneer cracked further, her polished smile replaced by furrowed brows, and her voice quaked ever so slightly. You misunderstand the goal. She tried to assert, yet the warmth of their shared truths was wrapping around her arguments, suffocating them like vines. And you misunderstand us, Sarah shot back, stepping forward like a warrior in battle. This isn't merely a nostalgic attachment. It's our commitment to a holistic education, one that embraces creativity and community. Each word dripped with passion, and Mark felt a surge of pride as Sarah effortlessly held her ground, her bravery fueling his own. As dissent shifted into a tide of support from the back rows, parents stood, sharing their stories. Grandma Alice, with her weathered hands, reminiscing about how this school had once nurtured the seed of their imaginative dreams, the young father's voice quavering as he declared, we need to cultivate empathy alongside intellect. The board members shifted uncomfortably, the restless energy radiating through the room. In that moment, a realization washed over Mark. Together, they were igniting more than just an initiative, they were sparking a movement rooted in hope, commitment, and trust. Rita finally stumbled, words choking in her throat as concern creased her forehead. Mark pressed on with renewed determination, we need to show them we're not just going to stand by as our children's futures are compromised. We will work together to enhance our community and its narrative. He glanced at Sarah, who beamed back at him, her spirit unyielding, grounding him in the present. Then let us be the architects of this change. Alex exclaimed, his enthusiasm mirrored across the room. Let us not only voice our concerns, let us propose actionable plans. We can create workshops, town halls, discussions that engage everyone. A swell of support ignited the crowd, their excitement palpable. The idea of collective participation lifted the room, transformed whispers into enthusiastic chatter. Mark felt a rush of relief flow through him, solidifying their unity. As whispers turned to shouts of agreement, the board realized they were losing control over the narrative they carefully crafted. Faces turned to Rita, expecting her to spin some counter-narrative, but instead, she was met with a collection of determined gazes, standing resolute. Mark could see the panic flicker like firelight in her eyes, a vulnerable moment where cracks had unveiled all of her carefully curated armor. Perhaps we can work together moving forward, Rita stammered, though the change in tone seemed forced, and the crowd hesitated. A mother's voice rang out, echoing through the room, "Will you prioritize our children or your agenda?" The question hung in the air heavy as a stone, amplifying both their fears and hopes. The silence was thick and pregnant with possibility. Mark could sense their hesitance faltering, their unity dissolving any resistance from Rita and the board members. After what felt like hours, the principal stood, gathering what little authority remained. "Let us take a step back," he said, his voice softer, respect bleeding through the undertone. "It's clear we have much to discuss, and we can't ignore the passion in this room." Mark felt a rush of victory coursing through him. This was a moment of peering into the depths of a brighter future, one decorated by collaboration and understanding instead of division. With plans to reconvene and draft a collaborative strategy in place, the initiative had transformed from a simple goal into a communal endeavor, the beating heart of Maplewood now firmly embedded in the fabric of change. The board proposed an open forum for parents and staff, a step away from fear and into hope. As the meeting wrapped, Mark turned to Sarah, an immense weight lifting off his shoulders. They shared a glance that spoke volumes, relief and pride filling the space between them. They had weathered the storms together, faced uncertainty hand in hand, and emerged on the other side forged in unity. "Can you believe it?" Sarah said, her eyes sparkling. "We did it," he finally breathed, a radiant smile lighting up his face. They stepped out of the school, the sun breaking through the clouds, casting a bright glow over Maplewood. As they walked, hand in hand, every familiar street felt infused with renewed life and possibility. Behind them, laughter flowed like a sweet melody through the halls of the school, where children painted futures filled with dreams. They had set out on this journey not merely to secure their own dreams, but to ensure that every child, every family, could find solace within the arms of community. Mark lifted his head high as he felt a spark within him, a boy who had once questioned his worth, now transformed into a leader who could inspire change. Broken pieces had woven a path to something extraordinary, showcasing that together, they could light the way to a brighter tomorrow, and in that moment, Mark knew their journey had just begun. Now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss future transformative stories like this. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread hope. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this conclusion. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message about the power of community. This is the moment to show your support. Be a part of this community. Don't wait not even one more second to share.